So Games Workshop have been replacing all their employees with robots recently. Here you can see Alchemist Workshop complaining about them being late. Stupid robots. But this never concerned me because I'm not a delivery driver, so whatever. However, I am what I would consider a creative employee, which means that I'm pretty concerned about other creative employees. And I don't want to alarm anybody, but I'm pretty sure that Games Workshop have started replacing all their creative employees now with chatbots too. Seriously, I was on the Warhammer YouTube channel looking for painting videos to crudely steal and re-upload on my Warhammer Piracy channel. But when I went to remove the presenters from the video, I discovered that there was nothing to remove. Seriously, look at this. It's just hands. I'm telling you guys, those hands could be made out of rubber. We don't know. And all the videos are like this now, for like the last few weeks at least. The only other type of video on the channel was this Meta Watch, and it's hosted by this guy who has clearly been generated by an AI. Not to mention, I don't think there's anybody in these suits. But okay, that's just YouTube. Maybe Games Workshop are just hiding all their creatives and painters on the exclusive members only platform Warhammer Plus and leaving the AI generated chatbot content for all the schlubs who don't want to pay money to watch some cartoons about an obscure line of toys. Luckily, I've got a subscription for just such an occasion, so let's go there and check. Right, this is Louise Sugden. She is definitely a real person because I've seen her tweet stuff. And as we all know, tweets are 100% real and cannot be AI generated. But let's just double check the latest Citadel Masterclass, and then I can stop this video here. Oh no, not Louise too! She's been turned into a pair of hands as well! Is no one safe? Wait, if they got to Louise, is anyone at Games Workshop not a chatbot? Let's go to Twitter. Darren Latham is the lead designer of miniatures at Games Workshop. If anybody is real, it'll be him. He's probably in charge of the chatbot army if there is one. Okay, let's see. Alright, there we go. Everything seems normal. So there, we can see just 23 hours ago he was tweeting and he said, I'm finally able to say that I was part of the team that created Angram. Well, that's good. Nice. Well, that couldn't have been generated by an AI. They don't have the technology yet. But, there's something familiar about that statement. So let me just check something. Okay, so here is a heavy metal painter, Drew Palace. I like his work, I think. This is why it's so familiar. Because he tweeted out before, glad to say I was part of the team who made the 8-bind for the new World Eaters range. Wait, and oh god, look, here's more. He's retweeted Connor Richardson, another heavy metal painter. He says, happy to say I got to be part of the team who worked on the recent Snarlfang Riders. Oh man. And here's Tom Ambrose, another painter that I think I like the work of. He's been retweeted here saying, proud to be part of the team that made these angry lads. Wait a second. They're all saying the same thing. How deep does this go? Part of the team, hashtag Warhammer community. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, they're all bots. They've all been subsumed. Oh god, they're all robots, man. The chatbots are taking over, man. It's war. Oh Jesus. So Games Workshop have done a boo-boo. Eagle-eyed viewers of Warhammer Plus this week have noticed that Games Workshop have removed the presenters like Louise Sugden from the Citadel Masterclass videos on Warhammer Plus. This follows a similar change that occurred on the Games Workshop YouTube channel a few weeks back when they got rid of all the painter personalities over there too. It seems that people are out and hands are in, just the way that Kevin Roundtree, CEO of Games Workshop, likes it. And I'm not saying that Louise is gone, like they took her out back and showed her the inside of a trunk. She's still doing all the painting on the Citadel Masterclass videos, but now she simply appears as a voice and a pair of disembodied hands. Which is kind of weird. That would be like tuning into an episode of Bob Ross and the camera sticking religiously to the painting and never showing us that luscious hair. You're really burying the lead here, guys. You don't understand what makes Bob Ross so good. And of course, Warhammer Twitter is up in arms about it. But then again, that's a group of people who get annoyed when you mention the words chess clock. So yeah. But why? Why have Games Workshop made this weird change to their programming? Is it just because of Kevin Roundtree's Louis' hand fetish. It's not slander if it's true, Kevin. Well, I've kind of talked about this on the channel before, only at that time I was covering Games Workshop's general insistence on not crediting any artist at all for any work. Because, yeah, if you didn't know, Games Workshop, they don't tell us who sculpted what Warhammer models, who drew which art, and who designed which games. They keep it all pretty scum. Apparently everybody is part of the team that brought you this video.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
And that hasn't always been true, and it only started because of the Chapter Heist trial. I did create a video on this exact topic a couple of months back, and that video has evidence and dates and everything, so I'm not going all over that again today. But I will link to that video on the topic at the end of this video if you're interested. However, all of that said, even when Games Workshop stopped crediting their writers and artists, they never stopped crediting their presenters, even after the Chapter Heist trial. A distinction was always made for those kind of customer-facing people. People doing battle reports, people presenting painting guides, they were always very personality-driven. Even the battle reports included in White Dwarf would be written by the actual participants of the battle, for example, or at least they would say that it was. So for Games Workshop to now decide, no more presenters' faces in our videos, you will be nameless drones, you will obey, is actually a bit out of character for them. Sort of out of character. So why do this then? Well, it is the result of an extremely unique set of circumstances, and it is not down to Chapter Heist this time. I know sometimes I like to blame that trial for everything. This time though, it's about something different. It's all to do with betrayal. And I'll tell you all about that right after I talk about ooze! Lovely gooey ooze! Fun fact, oozes are one of my favorite D&D monsters, and that's not just because watching Totally Spies at a young age triggered something deep within me in relation to slime, but also I just think they're neat. They're pretty cool monsters and one of the most terrifying things to encounter in a dungeon. And today's sponsor, Dragon Trappers Lodge, thinks so too. So much so, in fact, that this month they have created a huge army of oozes that are fully playable in all of the Age of Fantasy games from one-page rules. The army is called the Spawn of the Ooze Kings, and it looks gooey. And if you subscribe to the Dragon Trappers Lodge Patreon, link in the description below, then you can get over 50 STL files all for only $12. And hey, even if you don't have a 3D printer, you can also buy the physical miniatures and have them shipped straight to your door, which is super awesome. And with this force being an ooze army, there was a risk that each model would look pretty samey, but not here. Dragon Trappers Lodge have knocked it out of the park. All the models are so unique and imaginative, they look fantastic. They'll even work perfectly in a game like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder. I'm really excited to check these guys out on the table. They have a really fun, unique playstyle in Age of Fantasy. The army is designed as a slow-moving, unstoppable tide of goo that constantly regenerates and consumes everything in its path. It's like the Blob, but only a lot cuter because look at this little guy. Adorable. So don't miss out. Check out the Dragon Trappers Lodge Patreon in the link below and sign up for only $12 and get all 50 STL files. Then you can finally have an excuse to check out that Ivan Ooze cosplay, right? Who doesn't have an Ivan Ooze cosplay in their attic? Is it just me that has one? Really? Just me? I mean, if it wasn't Totally Spies that awoke something in me when I was young, then I'm like 84% certain that it was Ivan Ooze that awoke something in me. Just like Duncan Rhodes awoke something in Games Workshop. Mostly anger and jealousy, not a latent sense of sexuality, because we cannot talk about Games Workshop's relationship with their customer-facing presenters and content creators and not mention Mr. Two Thin Coats himself, Duncan Rhodes. I bet Duncan Rhodes has been the beginning of many a person's sexual awakening. Duncan, of course, was the Games Workshop tutorial paint helping squad guy, running the Warhammer YouTube channel for years, and he became massively popular in the wider wargaming community. So much so, in fact, that he ended up building a platform for himself, gained a huge fan base, and was able to escape the clutches of Games Workshop and start his very own painting brand. Ah, it's a bloody lovely dude do-gooder story, right? Heartwarming. Heartwarming. Well, not for the old Grinches over at Games Workshop. No, no, no. They did not like that one bit. So I guess then we have solved the case. Obviously, Games Workshop just don't want another Duncan Rhodes to spring up within the new cast of presenters on the Warhammer YouTube channel and Citadel Masterclass. So they have taken the decision to restrict all presenters to their hands only instead. And this is the twist in the video where I turn everything on its head and I tell you, yeah, actually I do actually think it's the case this time. It's all Duncan Rhodes' fault, really. See, I brought this idea up in the Chapter House video as well, and as much as I poo-pooed it then when it came to not crediting sculptors or designers, I think in this case, with the presenters, it's actually correct. Duncan Rhodes leaving Games Workshop really dealt them a ton of psychic damage to the Games Workshop, well, to the marketing team, really, at Games Workshop, and I think that they are kinda resentful, and I can see why. Games Workshop foster a pretty parochial and cultish corporate culture internally at the best of times, but even for a normal company, it hurts to build a platform and then have an employee, from their perspective, betray the company using that very platform that they had given him, in a way. So Games Workshop are vindictively ensuring that that will never ever happen again by hand-stringing their presenters. Sorry, that was like the weirdest laugh. I don't know what's going on. I'm operating on very little sleep. And of course, they don't want this to ever happen again, because having a star presenter become a competitor to them, like Duncan Rhodes became, was bad. Because, well, Games Workshop really hate competition. Like they really don't like it. Ask all the Blood Bowl STL creators who kept the game alive for 2 decades and then got shut down by Games Workshop when they decided to relaunch the game. Ask them about that. But also, because as a company, they want viewers to foster a parasocial relationship with the brand of Games Workshop and not with a personal presenter. If anything, a presenter gets in the way of that connection between consumer and brand. People won't watch Citadel Masterclass and fall in love with Warhammer. The fear is that they'll just fall in love with Louise Sugden instead. Games Workshop can own Warhammer, they can own the product, but thanks to the Abolition of Slavery Act of 1833, they can't own people.
The hippies finally got something right.
So a presenter stepping between the product and consumer is not within their interests from their perspective. So they're getting rid of the presenter. Remove the face, bring the hands, and now you'll fall in love with Warhammer and nothing else, unless you're like Kevin Roundtree, in which case you have a hands fetish. Again, I cannot get sued if I'm speaking the truth. So I don't get sued. You know what that means. Of course, to anyone else in the world though, this is obviously a pretty dumb idea and incredibly short-sighted. For one, it's pretty disrespectful to presenters, and I don't know about the Warhammer Plus team, but if it were me and I was told that we were no longer showing me on camera at all and I wouldn't be physically presenting the videos that I was hired to physically present, I'd start looking for a new employer or think about creating my own channel. It's pretty easy, you can do it. Because if I'm hired to present content, I want to present that content. I don't want to be a pair of disembodied hands and a voiceover. That would just make me feel like a geist. I would hate that. Being physically present on the screen is an important element to the content, and I would resent some fella telling me that I had to talk over a PowerPoint presentation instead. This ain't no Auspex tactics, people. I couldn't do that, even if it would get me more views. Being forced to do that would create a hostile relationship between me, the presenter, and that fella who's dictating everything that I can do. Employer, that's the employer. And it's exactly this type of decision making that likely led to Duncan leaving Games Workshop in the first place. Duncan wasn't the first creative to ever leave Games Workshop and build their own competing company. It has actually happened a lot. Games Workshop have a talent for bleeding talent. Is this the video of the weird laughs? I think it is. It's almost as if the type of decision making that leads to actions like not crediting any creatives or replacing personalities on your painting guides with disembodied hands leads to the type of company that people tend to not enjoy working for. I wonder if there is any relationship with those things whatsoever. Just saying though, I do think that creating a hostile relationship with your presenters is a pretty dumb move if you're worried about them maybe going on to build a platform without you. Not to mention, these obvious displays of disrespect towards creatives will clearly hurt Games Workshop's ability to bring in future talent. What person that has aspirations to become a full-time presenter would want to work for a company that refuses to show the presenter's face on camera because it's just too insecure? Oh, you might get the fans instead of us. Oh, grow up. But perhaps the most important part to viewers is that it also just hurts the content. Citadel Masterclass is just less less interesting to watch now. It's a worse piece of content. You can get a pair of disembodied hands anywhere. Well, not anywhere, you have to know a guy. Kevin Roundtree put me in touch with him. But you can get plenty of YouTube videos of people painting models showing just their hands, all for free. Why would someone want to pay to watch the exact same thing on Warhammer Plus? This service baffles me! Before things moved to hands only, there would be fans of the presenters who would pay money to watch them on Warhammer Plus. But with just disembodied hands and a voice, there's just less opportunity for that personality to shine through. And personality is super important and has a ton of value to the content.
That is what I love about you, Kate. You've got a personality.
There is a reason that Duncan Rhodes became popular, and it wasn't just because he was painting Warhammer, as much as Games Workshop might love to think that. It was more important that people liked him, that people liked his personality, that they identified with him, that they repeated his little painting wisdom tidbits ad nauseum. Seriously, it got a little out of hand. And Games Workshop may feel like Duncan Rhodes took their platform and stole it for himself to build a competing business, but that's not true. He built that platform himself. He was given an opportunity by Games Workshop, but he took that opportunity and he actually made something with it. I would say the same about Louise Sugden as well. I actually really like her presenting style. It's a little bit less manic than mine, but what are you gonna do? And the content that she creates is pretty fun, and it is unique to her. And it's clear that she is really good at it. This isn't always appreciated, but it is actual hard work to be a personality. It doesn't come natural to most people, and it is a ton of effort, but it is vital to a lot of content. YouTube is a massive example of that. YouTube is filled with personality-driven channels. Now, the Warhammer content on YouTube and Warhammer Plus has just lost a ton of personality, and as a result, it's going to lose viewers. People want to feel connected to the content creators that they watch. So removing creators from the content and moving instead to simply a pair of disembodied hands results in an uncanny, impersonal experience that frankly isn't as fun to watch, and it reduces the value of the programming. It's harder to relate to the content. So, you know, how do we stop this? And not just the presenters getting turned into hands for Kevin's sick, twisted fetish, but also the lack of crediting artists, designers, and sculptors. How do we make Games Workshop change their attitudes towards their employees? Well, I saw a couple people on Twitter say that they're gonna cancel the Warhammer Plus subscription, but I'm gonna be honest, guys, I don't think that's gonna cut it. It's probably not going to change Games Workshop's mind. No. Unfortunately, I think it's gonna take a lot more than that. Something that only an Irish girl can do. The following is a very serious address to Kevin Roundtree and the Games Workshop Board of Directors. You are to begin immediately crediting your artists, returning the presenters to your painting content, and describing who has written what in each Warhammer publication. I want to know if Matt Ward has been in anything I'm reading. Failure to carry out these demands will result in a most grave consequence for yourselves. Namely, an angry YouTube video will be produced and released to the public, and perhaps even a well-edited TikTok video will be created at your expense. Let it be known that we are not above deploying the use of clickbait and spending days to create an exaggerated skit as well. One that may even be far too drawn out and not as funny in practice as it had seemed at first thought. We have been preparing for this day for many years, Mr. Roundtree, and long ago infiltrated the wargaming community. Do not test us. Remember, we only need to be lucky once and get trending on TikTok. You need to be lucky all the time. Look at how many jumping stars I can do, Mr. Roundtree. Still think we're not serious? Exactly. You've been warned. Right, I think that went pretty well in. Probably solved it. What are you still recording for? I'm making a toffee crisp. Turn it off. Well then, there we are. Let's hope Games Workshop listened to that mysterious wargaming organization before an angry video is made about the company on the internet. Fate worse than death. Or hey, you know what? If that doesn't work, perhaps I will actually cancel my Warhammer Plus subscription. And perhaps you should too. After all, it was the cancellation of D&D Beyond subscriptions en masse by the player base of Dungeons & Dragons that ultimately managed to force the hand of Hasbro Wizards. You know, after that whole OGL Scandal thing. So if it worked there, perhaps it could work here. I mean, are we gonna see the same type of movement amongst Warhammer players? Maybe. Hopefully. So far, the only person I've seen really calling for it has been Goobertown Hobbies. And I haven't seen a lot of people following alongside him, but you know what? I will. I'm gonna plant my flag on this one. If you want to stand for creatives and you've got a Warhammer Plus subscription, maybe cancel it as well. Maybe that will send a message to Games Workshop. Just like Hasbro Wizards got their message. But in the meantime, if you're curious about why Games Workshop don't credit their creatives, check out this video here. Remember that my patrons get a 50% off discount code for the Surrogate Miniature store this month. And they have some really awesome sculpts, so check that out over on patreon.com/discourse miniatures. And a huge thanks to Sonic Bread, CryptoKev, and John Smith, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye.